Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. So today we're going to be asking the question, what if every single character from Mortal Kombat 1, excluding the guest characters, had a fight to the death? Who would be the last person standing? So we're going to be covering this in groups of 5. So we have a few different tiers, and that's going to determine where each character would go. So we have would go first, would put up a fight but not for long, would survive a decently long time, would survive a long time, and then the finalists. These will be like the last 5 to 3 characters, I'd say. Alright, so now that we've actually gone through what each of these tiers are going to mean, we can get into the video. Make sure to subscribe if you do enjoy, so I know to make more videos like this. It would definitely help me out, and I would really appreciate any support, liking or subscribing, whichever that is. So first off, would go first. So I have Johnny, Baraka, Takeda, and Reiko. So some of these might be controversial. Johnny is because in this game he doesn't really have any powers. He's just a normal dude, so I wouldn't imagine he would last too long. He only beats powerful characters in the story because it's somewhat plot armor in a way, because you're controlling him. Baraka, he would go first because he has the Tarkat disease, so that would make him quite weak. He wouldn't be able to fight for too long. I'd imagine all these characters would probably die in the first 5 to 10 minutes, assuming that the fight goes for an hour, let's say. The only thing with Baraka is that he could potentially infect other people, which would cause them to get weak and die pretty quickly. Then we have Takeda. I have him here because he is DLC, so we don't really know how strong he is. He's also quite young. So, I think every character past this is stronger than these 4, but there's reasons as to why I think that they're here. I just think Takeda's too young, and we don't really have any experience with him fighting that much, aside from his ending, really. And with Reiko, he's literally just General Shao, and I don't think General Shao's that strong, as you're about to see. And he fights very similarly to him, and he's also just like the rest of them here, pretty much just a normal person. Even Baraka, from what it sounds like in his story, is just a normal person before the Tarkat disease, so even without that, he'd be quite weak as well. So these are the 4 people that I think are probably the weakest. You could definitely move them. I might have some hot takes in this video, so let me know if you really disagree with any of these, but this is just my stance. These are the weakest 4, at least to me. So next, let's move on to the next tier, which is we'll put up a fight, but not for long. So here we have Li Mei, Natara, Tanya, Sarak, Sector, Quan Chi, and Rain. So some of these might be controversial. The characters that are here all have some type of power, or like power suits or something that make them a bit stronger, but the main thing that helped me put some of these here, we'll go through them each. Li Mei, it's because she's really just a person. She just has like her lantern power thingies. I don't really know what type of power it is, but then we have Natara, who can fly around and has blood stuff, but she is quite weak. I would say she doesn't really win in the story. Tanya, if it was Emperor and Empress Rain and Tanya, I would say they're stronger, but we're talking about the base version of the characters in the story, so Tanya has to be here. Sorax and Sector are just normal women, they're just normal people with suits on, so they can't be all that strong. Then Quan Chi, I feel like he's a bit overrated in terms of how strong he actually is. I don't know, I just feel like the games tend to overhype Quan Chi quite a bit. I just don't think he is all that strong, and I think that once you get rid of his sorcery stuff, even with that, I just don't think he's that strong. And Rain doesn't do that much in the story. Again, if it was Emperor Rain, he'd be higher, but in the base story, he doesn't really do much. We know he's a mage, but we don't really see him do anything massively impressive, at least as far as I can, remember. So that's why I've put him here. All these characters have, either they don't really have massively impactful powers, or they're small powers that are pretty cool, but we just don't really see them get used that much in the story, so they don't have that much of an impact, and I just don't think they're that strong. This tier might potentially be the most sort of divisive from some of you, because you might not really agree with my takes here. I mean, I know some of these characters are pretty popular. I think Natara, outside of MK1, is actually quite a strong character. She'd probably be in the next tier. But just from what we see from her in MK1, she is quite weak. At least that's how it comes across. And the rest of these characters are all the same. They have powers that are pretty cool, but they're just not used to their highest potential, or their powers are just sort of relatively weak in comparison. I don't see Li Mei's lantern and pink. I don't know what the actual power is, but I don't see that working against Liu Kang, for instance, you know what I mean? So that's ultimately sort of how I decided where these characters would be. I don't think they're as weak as the last 4, but they're not as strong as the characters that are coming up right now. So this is the category called would survive a decently long time. here we have Havoc, Smoke, Shang Tsung, General Shao, Kung Lao, and Reptile, a really random group of characters. So again, if it was Chaos Reigns, Havoc probably would be higher, but he doesn't really do enough in the story. However, I do think his power would be kind of helpful. I mean, it seems like if you rip parts of his body off, he doesn't die, so it's going to be kind of hard to kill him. But I feel like at the end of the day, there would be a way to figure out how to take him down, and once that's figured out, he wouldn't last very long. Smoke, I've always imagined, would be quite weaker than Scorpion and Sub-Zero. That's just sort of the vibe he gives off, if that makes sense. I just don't think he's as strong. He also doesn't get a chapter in story mode, so we don't really know his power level. Shang Tsung is one of those characters, again, that's a little overhyped, I think, and I feel like he could be defeated pretty quickly. With General Shao, as I sort of mentioned in the first tier with Reiko, I just think he's a bit overhyped as well. He's not as strong as he would be if he was Shao Kahn. Kung Lao is another character I think isn't quite as strong as Raiden and other Shaolin characters. Again, maybe a little overhyped. And Reptile, I think he could be invisible for a good amount of the fight, but I feel like once he's found, he isn't quite to the same level as some of the other characters in terms of fighting ability, so I feel like he would go down relatively quickly. I also just don't know how strong his race is when it comes to fighting. We don't really know because he's the only one we see in the game, I believe, unless we count Chameleon. So yeah, we have to see, but in general, I think these are some of the more weaker characters. I mean, like here with General Shao, I feel like he is relatively strong, but we see him lose to a lot of characters in the game. Losing to Raiden isn't that bad, but Raiden is sort of just a farmer who like recently gets electricity sort of powers, so I feel like he should win. And Shang Tsung, I don't know, he's the final boss, but that's the Titan version, not the regular version, who gets some wins in the story, but they're usually just against evil henchmen, so nothing is really proved, at least for me, like nothing really proven through him in the story. These are all characters that either didn't get a chapter or got a chapter, but I just don't think did something massively impressive, and in a fight against the whole rest of the roster, I see them being sort of in the middle where they survive a bit, but they would be no match for the characters here. So now we have Kenshi, Ashura, Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Mileena, Katana, Sindel, and Noob Saibot. So let's go through these characters individually so I can explain it. So Kenshi, if we were talking about from the very start of the story, he would probably be in the tier lower than this, but at the end of the game he's quite strong because he gets his Sento powers back, so I think he'd be quite difficult to stop. Ashura, I think, is really strong, especially with her sword on her. I think that she can be quite difficult to take down. Scorpion and Sub-Zero are pretty simple ones to understand. They're both from a clan, both very good fighters, so that'd be pretty difficult. Mileena and Katana, people forget that these two are like 10,000 years old, so surely they would be really good fighters. And we know Sindel's their mother, so she'd be even older than they are. Noob Saibot, I think, is about the same level as Sub-Zero, so just Bihan. However, he beats Titan Havoc, but I don't know if that's plot armor or if he is genuinely as strong as a Titan. And because Noob Saibot is only in Chaos Reigns, that's all we can really go from. So I would say he's very strong, but not quite at the top tier, because again, could be plot armor, he might be that strong, I don't know. But I think all these characters have really impactful powers that would be really helpful. Kenshi Sento, for instance, Noob's powers. Mileena and Katana and Sindel are just quite old, really good fighters, you would assume. And Sub-Zero and Scorpion have very helpful powers that could help you win a fight. So the final tier now, we have finalists, and that's Ermac, Geras, Raiden, and Liu Kang. These characters, I believe, are probably the strongest in the game, so let's talk about them. Ermac, of course, he has like a bunch of souls in him, so he's going to be kind of hard to stop, right? Based on his lore, you'd think he'd be basically impossible to kill, like one of the strongest characters for sure. When it comes to Geras, I mean, we know his story. He's in MK11, you couldn't kill him. I don't know if that's specifically mentioned in this game or not, but I don't think he can die. I really have no idea how that works now. When it comes to Raiden, normally, no, he'd probably be in like the bottom tier or bottom 2 or 3 tiers, but because of his electricity powers, he's sort of being set up as the new Liu Kang of this era, so we can tell he's probably going to be a top tier fighter. And then, of course, Liu Kang, he made this timeline, he's a god, so he's going to be quite strong, quite difficult to beat. But out of these 4, who are the strongest? Say that these 4 are the last left and they have to fight. Like Raiden has to fight Liu Kang, Geras. Like they're not on the same team, they have to fight to get ultimate power, for instance. Who wins that? And I would say it's Geras and Liu Kang. These are the 2 that are left because they are probably the hardest to kill. keep in mind all these guys would be wounded from fighting other characters that have already died in this fight. So if it comes down to these two, who do I think wins? Well, we'll say that this fight takes place at the Pyramid of Argus, just like Armageddon. They're at the top of the pyramid. Who do I think would win? I mean, it's difficult, but ultimately this might be kind of predictable. I would actually say probably Liu Kang, and the reason I say this is simply because he made this timeline and he's a god. With Geras, again, I don't know if it's fully explained whether or not he can die or not in this game, because in MK11 he just wouldn't die, but because Liu Kang sort of recreated him as a good guy in this timeline, I don't fully know how his powers work. Let me know if you guys know the answer to this in the comments. Can Geras die in MK1? Because I don't know if it's actually explained. I feel like in some intros it said that he still can't die. So you could say then Geras, because it's impossible to kill him, but Liu Kang, again, he made this timeline, so he probably would know a way to stop Geras in a way that I don't think any other character could. Liu Kang has an immense amount of power, so I definitely see him finding a way to stop him. But ultimately, as I said, I think Liu Kang takes this, and he would definitely be the one to win. But that's it for the video, everyone. Let me know who you think would win if every character from Mortal Kombat 1 had a fight. Make sure to stay tuned for the next video, because I'm not entirely sure, but I think I'm going to make it be based on which Mortal Kombat characters could take Batman in a fight, but not just Batman, but Arkham Batman. So for people who miss my Arkham videos, this is going to be a mixture of Arkham and Mortal Kombat, so that might be my next video. It might be a video like in a few weeks time, who knows, but definitely looking forward to making that. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see that and other Mortal Kombat videos. I would really appreciate it, and as always, I hope you have a great day.